kept her office the way people wished their minds could be. Soft light, quiet colors, a candle that never flared, only breathed. A framed lakeside photo lay face down on the desk most days, like a book set aside mid-chapter. She said the calm helped her patients open up. Lately, the calm felt like a mouth that never closed. The first time it happened, a woman sat in the chair across from Ellen and talked about a dream of deep water. She described a child's voice calling for help, the kind of voice that turns the air into ice. Ellen noted the words, the patterns, the way the woman's hands wrung an invisible towel. Then the woman said the voice faded and the water went still, and something inside Ellen's chest closed its fist. She kept her face steady. She always kept her face steady. After the session, Ellen stayed in the chair and looked at the mirror behind her desk. It caught the room the way a net catches light. The air near it felt heavier than the rest of the office, as if the mirror were its own weather. She told herself she was overtired. She folded the session notes. She blew out the candle and watched the smoke trail curl toward the glass and flatten there. That night she cued the recording, a habit as old as her license. The patient's voice filled the laptop speakers bright with fear. Beneath it, faint at first and then clear as a held breath, another voice whispered 3 words. "You forgot me." The cursor paused. Ellen did not. She closed the laptop with a calm practiced by people who cannot afford to start shaking. In the morning, a small puddle had formed beneath the mirror. The building manager blamed humidity. The window showed a dry sky and a sun that did not care. Ellen set a towel down and pressed until the towel went dark. The mirror held her shape and the candle's flame and a thin, wavering shimmer at the edge where glass meets frame. Her patients came and went. She listened to the anger that wears the mask of certainty, the panic that learns to sound like planning, the grief that returns wearing new clothes. Each story pressed against the room in its own way. Somewhere between the 3rd and 4th session, the room began reflecting something new. When Ellen spoke, a second voice followed a heartbeat later, soft and almost kind, repeating her words back to her as if to be sure she had heard them herself. Colleagues noticed the changes first. "Ellen, you look pale. Ellen, you're working too late. Ellen, take a week." She smiled in the safe way that suggests agreement without the liability of honesty. She covered the mirror with a cloth. The space brightened in a way that did not make sense. The next patient cried without quite knowing why. When the session ended, Ellen lifted the cloth to smooth it flat, and the scent of river water rose as if the fabric itself had learned to breathe. The recordings grew stranger. Her own breathing doubled. A small wet sound threaded the audio like footsteps wading through a shallow pool. The woman with the drowning dream returned and reported a new detail. "In this one," she said, "the voice calling for help knew my name." Ellen wrote that sentence down with a steady hand and a pulse that refused to match it. When the woman left, Ellen stayed seated and watched the mirror. She did not look into it so much as near it, the way a person stands near the edge of a cliff and studies the horizon instead of the drop. She tried to do what therapists tell people to do. She named what she felt. She allowed the thought to surface. She listened for the story under the story. She even scheduled a session with a colleague. They met in a different office that smelled like old carpet and institutional coffee. Ellen spoke about stress and boundaries and the line between empathy and absorption. She did not speak about a car half full of water. She did not speak about a small hand sliding against her fingers. She did not speak the name that lived behind her teeth like a shard. That night her phone lit the dark with a voicemail from her own number. She pressed play and heard a waterlogged hush, and then a single, small word. "Mum." She did not sleep. She watched dawn unfold across the office walls like a slow admission. When she arrived early, the towel beneath the mirror was already wet. The candle wick was black, though she had not lit it. The next patient carried a story that did not belong to her. She spoke about a flood, about headlights cutting underwater, about a seatbelt that would not unbuckle and a shoreline that would not stay where shorelines belong. Ellen felt her throat close. She asked for a break and stepped into the hall where the air was ordinary and thin. She pressed her palm against the drywall to feel something solid that had not learned how to give back. "You never forgot," a voice said inside her memory. "You only learned how not to remember." She opened the office door. The mirror had no cloth on it. She had no memory of lifting it away. The room took on a sound like a held-back storm. Not thunder, pressure. The candle flame pulled sideways as if the mirror were a wind. The surface of the glass did not ripple and somehow rippled anyway. A small shape formed in the reflection. Not the kind of thing a person can describe without betraying it. An outline where a boy ought to be. A stillness that once had lungs. Ellen felt her hand lift. The glass met her knuckles with the cool of a lake at night. "What do you want?" she asked, and the mirror returned the question in her voice and another voice together. "You." The word carried no malice. It carried the weight of a door that has stuck for years and finally opens. Water did not pour from the mirror. The room did not fill. The carpet did not swim. But the office became a shoreline just the same. Ellen stood at the edge of it and let the memory finish its cruel job. She let the flood complete the circle it had been drawing around her days. She felt the slip again, the wet and the panic, and the way a human hand can fail to be a rope when a child needs it to be a rope. She did not argue with it. She did not apologize to it. She said his name in a voice that had not said it aloud since the funeral. She said it once, then again, then a third time, the way people say a name into darkness to teach the darkness their pronunciation. The office steadied. The pressure lifted. The candle burned like a candle. The mirror reflected the room and the chair and Ellen, and a thin seam of light down its center, where the glass met itself and remembered being sand. When the afternoon patient arrived, Ellen greeted them with the tone she used before everything changed, and after everything changed. The session held. The air held. The room held. At one point, the patient glanced past Ellen's shoulder and smiled without meaning to. Ellen did not turn. She did not need to. She allowed the smile to pass through the room and settle where it belonged. She kept the photo face down on the desk. She kept the towel folded in the bottom drawer. She kept the recordings, not because she planned to listen to them, but because discarding them would have made a new ghost. At closing, she sat in the chair and let the day loosen its grip one finger at a time. In the mirror, the office sat with her. In the mirror, the chair beside her was not empty. The boy did not accuse. He did not vanish. He rested in the place where memory and reflection touch, and neither one wins. Some nights the puddle returns and dries before dawn. Some mornings the candle wick is black, and she cannot explain why. When she speaks to parents about loss, her voice carries a shoreline they recognize without being told. She no longer believes the mirror is a door. She believes it is a room where the living and the lost can sit without hurting each other more than time already has. On certain evenings, when the last appointment leaves and the building settles into its bones, she says his name. The mirror does what mirrors do. It gives her back her face, tired and kind, and something small beside it that does not need saving anymore. She turns the photo over and looks at the lake the way a person looks at a word they have learned to pronounce correctly. She writes the frame. She sets it down. She leaves the office the way people leave a shoreline they know they will return to. The light switches off. The mirror keeps the last bit of the room a half breath longer than it should, and then lets it go.